Yeah. Hard sports all plays. Hard sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Hard sport all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Hard sports all plays.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. I'm Chris Gonzalez, like normal. Got the stat guy with me today. How's it going, man?
No, it's going. We're getting kind of to that part of the year where if you're a sports fan, if you don't watch soccer or baseball, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Yep. We'll have a little bit of NBA talk just because of the free agency stuff, but yeah, it's basically going to be baseball. I'm not a real big soccer fan, but I'm a big baseball fan, so I'll be all right. I try to watch soccer. I don't know. I haven't been able to get into it like I do the other sports.
Yeah.
But no, since I'm kind of glad you're on because I wanted to talk some about the College World Series. If you're a fan of baseball, especially kind of like the old school style of baseball, College World Series was great to watch.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised. I thought Oklahoma would win that just because my reasoning was pitching advantage. They played less games, so I thought they were going to have the fresher pitching staff going into that series, but Ole Miss was able to pull it off.
Yeah, and it was kind of like March Madness this year for the NCAA tournament also, where when the tournament started, a lot of people's like, well, I'm picking Gonzaga to win because they're the number one team and they have been the number one team all year. But then you also looked at it and you said on paper there's realistically 10 or 12 teams that could have won the NCAA tournament this year. And then you get to the Final Four and you have North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, and Villanova. All four of those teams legitimately had a shot to win the whole thing and ended up going to Kansas. Yeah. Same thing you can say with the baseball tournament this year where Tennessee was the dominant team all year. There was not even a team outside of the first 2 weeks of the season that was in the same conversation as Tennessee. So you have everybody coming into the tournament basically saying it's Tennessee against the field. When you really look at how they played the last 2 weeks, they weren't playing up to that level they were earlier in the year. And then once Notre Dame knocked off Tennessee in the Super Regionals and you got to the actual College World Series, all 8 of those teams legitimately had a shot to win the College World Series. You had Notre Dame coming in, knocking off the number one team in the nation, and a lot of people felt that momentum was going to carry Notre Dame into the championship series. And then you had teams like Stanford and Arkansas who are known for their offense, and Stanford ends up losing right away too. So the number 1 and number 2 overall seeds didn't even make it really past the opening round of the College World Series. And then it just got to the point where whoever was the hottest team in that tournament was going to win, and Ole Miss was the hottest team. They played very well in the regional round. They played well in the Super Regionals, and they got hot at the right time and now made it 2 years in a row where the SEC has won the national championship, because I think Arkansas won it last year, Mississippi State, one of those two teams won it last year, and now Ole Miss follows it up this year.
Yeah, and there was only, if I remember right, there was only 2 ranked teams that made it to the actual World Series, right? Yeah,
Technically, yes, but technically no, because the way seeding works for the College World Series, it only ranks the top 16 teams, so they get like the top 16 teams. But Notre Dame finished the season ranked 18th in the country. Of the 8 teams that were in the College World Series, all of them were in the top 25. It's just a matter of what seed they got for regionals. They don't seed past the top 16.
So basically, it was only 2 seeded teams made it to the actual World Series.
Yeah, 2 of the top 16 national seeds made it to the tournament.
5-14, I think it was.
Yeah, but the rest of the teams were still like top 25 teams that got in. So it's not like there was really anybody that didn't deserve to be there because they were all ranked teams that got there.
And Notre Dame, to me, they just got off to a bad start in that game against Texas A&M. I think they could have been a lot more competitive and maybe even beat A&M. But they got off to a bad start with an error there, and just their pitching pitched pretty good after that point, but they just got off to that bad start.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought Notre Dame was going to beat Texas A&M. I watched that whole game like, man, if you wouldn't go off to that bad start, because you really outplayed them the rest of the game. But
I thought Notre Dame was going to beat Oklahoma too, and outside of the one big inning by Oklahoma, Notre Dame outplayed them too.
Yeah, they just kept giving up that one big inning. In Major League Baseball, I know it's early, not to the All-Star break yet, but right now, who would be your favorite for the World Series?
What was that? Sorry, I didn't catch that. What was that?
In Major League Baseball, so I know it's early because we're not even the All-Star break yet, but who would be your World Series favorite right now?
I'm going with the Subway Series right now. That's kind of what I'm sticking to. I mean, with the way the Yankees have played so far through 70 games, it's kind of hard to pick against them. And I know it's the Yankees and they really haven't won anything in over 10 years, but if they keep the pace that they're on right now, they're on pace to win 117 games, which would break the Major League record for wins set by Seattle with 116. So they're on pace to break the regular season record for wins, and Yankees have always been known for offense, which they still have, obviously, but they're actually getting much better pitching than I would think anyone expected them to get, and that's a big reason why right now I don't think the Yankees are going to have one of those stretches where they're not playing very well. They might have like a stretch or two where they're playing 500 baseball across like 20 games, but I don't think they're ever going to get into one of those stretches where the whole team is struggling enough where it's going to worry people. So they're kind of my pick out of the American League right now. I know I picked Toronto to come out of the American League at the beginning of the year, and Toronto's 11 games above 500, which isn't a bad record at all. They're probably still going to make the playoffs. But when the Yankees are playing as well as they're playing, I mean, you really can't go off of them right now. In terms of the National League, I just like the Mets. And you look at where the Mets are right now. For the first time, and you could argue forever, they have a manager that actually knows what he's doing in Buck Showalter. You have a team that's pitching phenomenally well. You have an offense that's playing phenomenally well. And the scary part about this Mets team right now and in the position they're in, they're doing this without Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. Yeah. Two of the top 5 pitchers in Major League Baseball they do not even have right now, and they still have the record they have. They're not going to have Jacob deGrom at all this season, but Max Scherzer should be back within the next couple weeks. You add him into that mix, it's only going to make that team even better.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And with the Yankees, they've kind of surprised me that they kept this streak going, because with some of the pitch injuries they had to their pitching staff, like the relief pitchers and stuff, I thought you might see a fall off, but man, they've had guys step up, and I agree with you. I don't see them going on a big down spiral or nothing. And then the Mets, I've been a big fan of the Mets since the beginning of the season. And like you're saying, without Scherzer and deGrom, which they're not going to get deGrom back, but I don't know. Even though I'm a Reds fan, it's nice to see the Mets good, because when both teams in New York are good, I don't know, it makes baseball better.
Exactly.
It would be cool to see a Subway Series, because I know my team's not going to make the World Series, and I know your team probably isn't either, because you guys are in the same mode we are. But and the Blue Jays have been a little disappointing to me, because I thought they'd be, 11 games over 500 bad, but I thought they'd be in a little bit better position than what they are.
I thought they would too, but the thing with the Blue Jays right now is their pitching is god awful. Yep. I mean, you have Kevin Gausman was their big offseason acquisition, and from a record side of things, he's sitting at 5-7, which isn't a great record, but his ERA is a 3.1. So it's not like he's pitched bad. He just isn't getting much run support. Then you have Alek Manoah, who's sitting at 9-2 with a 2.4 ERA. He's obviously been the best pitcher on the staff. Then you got guys like Jose Barrios, 5.3. Normally a guy that sits in the 3.4, 3.5 range. You have Yusei Kikuchi, who is their other big free agent acquisition, who's typically around 4.1, 4.2. He's in the 4.9, 5 range right now. Hyun-Jin Yu has ended up having Tommy John surgery. He was sitting at 5.7 before he went down, and the guy that is filling in for him is Ross Stripling, who, yes, his ERA is a 3.1, which is good, but as a starter, it's a 4.5, which isn't that great. So their starting pitching is what's kind of doomed the Blue Jays at this point. I do see Toronto making a move at the trade deadline to get another arm. Maybe they go after Frankie Montas from Oakland since Oakland unloaded everybody else. And if you add Frankie Montas into that mix, that gives you three guys that you can count on in the playoffs with Gosman, Montas, and Alek Manoah. And then you just got to figure out who your number 4 is going to be. But the Blue Jays offensively are going to be fine. It's just, can their starting pitching pick it up? Because if their starting pitching actually pitches the way they're capable of, they're going to make a run in the American League in the second half of the year.
And that's what's a little deceiving about the Blue Jays, because if you look at their team ERA, it's like right at 4, which isn't terrible, but it's because they have the two real good guys and nobody else. Like you said,
they have the two really good guys, and then they have a good back of the bullpen. Otherwise, the rest of their, like, if you can get the ball to the back of the bullpen, you're fine. It's how can you get it there?
I know, Dad. Don't be bringing that up. The Blue Jays are looking at Castillo from the Reds.
Which, that's another good pickup for them also.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw yesterday that trade talks were heating up about Castillo. I don't want to see him go, but we already got rid of the rest of our pitching, so I guess we might as well just keep going into rebuild mode. And Castillo's been pitching solid this season. He got off to a rough start, but after that, his last 5-6 starts, he's been pretty quality.
Yeah, we've seen it from Castillo before when his ERA was in the 2.8 to 3.2 range, where when he's pitching well, he also got a lot of offensive support. So, like, right now, yes, his earned run average, I think it's still like a 4.4 or a 4.5, but his last 6 or 7 starts, it's been like a 2.1, so he's pitching extremely well. But he hasn't gotten much offensive support with Cincinnati this year because their entire team has been gutted. You go to Toronto and you post a 2.1 ERA, you're going to win a lot of games because that Blue Jays offense is going to back you with plenty of support.
Yeah. That offense is going to score probably 3 to 4 runs a game at minimum on most nights.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move over to the NBA a little bit. Got free agency coming up Thursday. I saw where the Nets gave Kyrie permission to start looking for a sign and trade.
Yep.
I think this is just more of a negotiation thing. I think he probably ends up picking up that option because unless he does go to the Lakers. I've heard rumors of him going to the Lakers. What do you think is going to happen with Kyrie?
I know we talked about this on the morning show too. I think right now it's more of a Kevin Durant has the ball in his court right now, where if the Nets have to choose between Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they're going to pick Kevin Durant. So now it's more of, does Kevin Durant want Kyrie Irving to remain in Brooklyn, or does he want another guard like Damian Lillard or somebody else to come to Brooklyn? Because if he says, I want a guy like Damian Lillard, then look for the Nets to try to do a sign and trade with Portland where they sign and extend Kyrie Irving, ship him off to Portland, and try to get Damian Lillard in return. Because right now it just seems like Durant's time with Kyrie Irving has come to an end. It just seems like Irving not being around the team as much as he was last year took a toll on everybody, and the Nets aren't going to turn their back on Durant. They're going to pretty much let Durant decide when he wants to leave, and if he wants to stay, they're going to do what it takes to keep him around, even if that means shipping off Irving for somebody else.
Or do you, if Durant wants Irving, they'll probably re-sign Irving for that reason as well, because they're not going to want to lose Durant.
I just don't think they want to re-sign Irving just because.
Yeah, I don't think they want to either.
Durant is owed $96 million. And we saw this, not this past postseason, but last postseason, where Kevin Durant single-handedly almost eliminated the Bucks. So with that being said, do you want to get rid of a player that single-handedly almost eliminated the Bucks, or do you want to keep somebody that has been a cancer basically to the last 3 teams he's gone to, and then risk losing one of the greatest scorers in NBA history to somebody else, and then putting your team in a worse position that you're at right now?
So you think there's a better chance of Kyrie ending up like a Portland and maybe with the Lakers?
I think it's a better if they've given him permission to seek a sign and trade, the only way I see that working is if he ends up in Portland, because under no circumstances do I see Kevin Durant wanting Russell Westbrook in Brooklyn, because that puts him in a much worse position than what he's in right now. So if that's the goal, then you might as well just keep Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn and ride with it for the final 2 years of your contract in Brooklyn and then move on to somebody else. But if they are willing to do the sign and trade, why not try to poach Damian Lillard from Portland? Just because everybody else has left Portland for the most part.
Yep.
Portland would still be getting a very valuable asset in Kyrie Irving, where, yes, you're losing Damian Lillard, who's younger than Kyrie Irving, but you're replacing him with one of the better scoring point guards in the league anyways, so it's not like you're losing a ton for that. And then Durant would have a guy in Lillard that he can play with for 3 years in Brooklyn that would finally be on a team that gives him a chance to potentially make an NBA final.
What other team would have a player that maybe the Nets would be interested in, or I guess KD would be interested in playing with, maybe that could do a sign and trade?
Bradley Beal in Washington, but we've already seen Bradley Beal say he wants to sign a new 5-year extension with Washington, so I don't even feel bad for him anymore. He can stay there for all I care.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. He's going to opt out of his thing and then sign a max deal.
Yeah, so I don't understand why. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, there's really not too many teams that have a point guard that I think they'd be willing to give Brooklyn, because you look at Atlanta, they have Trae Young, but they're not going to move on from Trae Young. Dallas has Luka. Golden State has Curry. I mean, there's really not too many teams in terms of a point guard that would be willing to sacrifice like an all-star caliber point guard for Kyrie Irving. The only other one that maybe makes a little more sense is you go for DeJounte Murray at San Antonio, but San Antonio is going to want a lot in return for Murray, and especially draft picks, and I don't know if Brooklyn has the draft picks to make that work.
Yeah. I think there's going to be – I don't know if there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want Irving just because you don't know about his availability as of late.
I don't think that'll be an issue next year, just because the whole vaccine thing is kind of now done its course and it's kind of gone now, where he should be available to play every single game next year. I just think when it comes to Kyrie Irving, and as difficult as this is for me to say, just because he's still a hell of a player and he's still a top 10 scorer in the NBA when he's on, he's one of those guys now where you can't give him a long-term deal anymore. No. You can't give him these 4 or 5 year, $200 million contracts because you don't know what you can get out of him. It's like he's half in and half out with a basketball mindset, where anybody that signs him, in my opinion, the most you can give him is 2 years, maybe 3, but anything after that, you can't give him a long-term contract anymore.
I wouldn't give him no more than, I would say 1 year, but 2 at the most. And I mean, even with the vaccination thing aside, he hasn't played over 65 games in like last 7 seasons. And last few teams he's on, some like the Celtics looked better. I'm not saying they were a better team without him, but they looked better when he wasn't playing. You know what I mean? So it just don't seem like he's an easy guy to get along with.
He's an easy guy to get along with if things are going his way. But if things are not going his way, then he's a nightmare to get along with. And that's the problem. It's just like the only player that was able to keep him in line, basically, was LeBron James. And that kind of goes back to the whole Laker thing, where you keep hearing that the Lakers are interested in Kyrie Irving. Well, at what cost? The only way that I see that happening is if Irving goes to free agency and the Lakers get him as a free agent. But if they do that, Irving's leaving $36 million on the table.
Yeah.
He's not going to leave $36 million on the table just to go back to LeBron James, which kind of brings me to that sign and trade thing, where if they've given him permission to seek a sign and trade, well, guess what? He'll seek that long-term extension, but Brooklyn's not going to send him to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook. There's no way. The only team that they would send him to is like to Portland for a Damian Lillard or a guy like Bradley Beal if they can pry him away from Washington. So at that point, does it pay for Irving to actually want to leave?
I don't think it does because I think it's going to be hard to find a team that's going to be willing to give Irving that max deal and that has pieces that the Nets want. Because, like you said, the Nets aren't going to take just Russell Westbrook. I don't think KD for one wants to play with Westbrook again, and Westbrook's not the same player that he was 2-3 years ago as well. So they're not going to just do that. I agree with you. I think Lillard would be their best option.
Yeah, anybody. I mean, I hate saying this because I like Damian Lillard a lot, but he's kind of starting to get in the same position as Bradley Beal, in my opinion, at this point. Where, at what point do you stop feeling sorry for the player? Like, you go to Portland, and Portland's pretty much gutted that entire organization top to bottom, getting rid of CJ McCollum and all these other players that helped Portland remain successful. And yet Lillard is trying to be as loyal as possible to that organization. At some point, if you don't request the trade, you can't feel bad for the guy anymore. Same thing with Bradley Beal. Like, Bradley Beal had Russell Westbrook, he had John Wall, and he had some other. But at some point, you got to stop feeling bad for him too, because he refuses to leave.
Yeah. Damian says that would be a good move for Portland and Brooklyn. The problem there is Lillard is loyal to Portland, and Portland is not a place Kyrie wants to go. He already said he wants to go to the Knicks, Boston, Mavs, or LA.
And if you look at that list that Damian put there, Mavs aren't giving up Luka.
No.
Brooklyn's not going to take Russell from LA. Who is Boston going to be willing to part ways with? I don't think Boston parts ways with Jaylen Brown or Marcus Smart for Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving already tried his luck in Boston once. They won't take him back. And if you go to the New York Knicks, who do the Knicks have? They don't have really anybody at point guard that they can send Brooklyn in return.
Then he said, in Denver, but Denver's
not going to get rid of Jamal Murray because they saw how much they needed Jamal Murray this year when he was hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the options are going to be limited for him. So I think he ends up back with the Nets, just like you say, because he's not going. I think he ends up signing that. What is it? His option for $36 million? Because I don't.
Yeah, the best scenario for him right now is to sign that $36 million option for next year. Let Russell Westbrook remain in Los Angeles for one more year, and then once they both hit free agency, then Irving can go and sign whatever he wants to sign with Los Angeles after that.
You see any other like big moves happening here as free agency starts on Thursday?
I mean, if you look at the free agent class this year, outside of Zach LaVine, there's really not too many big name free agents.
No.
I think Zach LaVine remains in Chicago just because Chicago's the only team that can give him that $200 million. And passing up $30 million as a player is not something that's very easy to do. So I can see him remaining in Chicago, and if that's the case, I think the trade deadline and the trade market will be very, very entertaining this year. I think you're going to see trades coming off the board left and right. Obviously, that's all going to start with Rudy Gobert and the Chicago Bulls. Rumors with him, are the Bulls really willing to pull the trigger and get a guy like Rudy Gobert? And if they do that, does that make the team better or worse? Obviously, it makes them better defensively, but it makes them worse offensively because you don't get the same production from him on offense as you do with Nikola Vucevic. You have other guys like Mitchell Robinson who can opt into his contract with the New York Knicks, but would the Knicks be willing to trade him to other places? And then obviously with Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving, like all these players are trade candidates where as important as the NBA free agency is for every team, I think more teams are going to be monitoring the trade deadline this year to improve their team as opposed to the free agency.
Thing is, what about Philly? Kyrie did say he wants to go to Philly.
Philadelphia fans would chew Kyrie Irving and spit him out. We've seen how Philadelphia fans treat their sports teams, and if you don't give Philadelphia 110% every night on the floor, they're going to chew you up and spit you out.
With the Lakers, you think the Lakers are basically going to be – I mean, they're just going to have to pick up some veteran pieces, right? Because they're not really going to be able to do much in free agency because of that Westbrook contract.
they're not going to be able to do much regardless of what they pick up because of that Westbrook contract. And I've said this, and you've heard me say this many times, whether it's on the morning show, whether it's on any of these shows. The Lakers had an opportunity to have DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and Buddy Hield on their roster this year. And those three players combined are making $9 million less than what Russell Westbrook is making on his own.
Yeah.
So put that into perspective. Russell Westbrook is making $7 million more this year than he made last year. So if they would have been saving $9 million last year by adding those three pieces, they would have an additional $16 million to spend this year by adding those three pieces. So instead of having roughly $9 or $10 million to spend this offseason, they'd be closer to $30 million to spend.
Yeah.
By adding guys like Caruso, DeRozan, and Buddy Hield as opposed to bringing in Russell Westbrook. They would have been in a much better position this year to sign pieces.
Yeah, I think they're going to really struggle to make the playoffs again this year because they're like you said, they don't have the money to really upgrade their roster a whole lot.
Either they don't, and if you look at all the teams that made the playoffs last year, Golden State, I'm pretty sure we can pencil them to be the Western Conference favorites again next year. You have a team like Memphis, a young and upcoming team that's only going to get better. Phoenix, depending on what happens with DeAndre Ayton, they still have a title contending window for now, but if Ayton leaves, that's going to be a significant hit on Phoenix, so you might see them struggle a bit next year. Dallas is going to get better. Utah, I think, could struggle next year just because with Quinn Snyder leaving as head coach, we don't know what's really going on with that franchise behind closed doors, so they might kind of take a step back next year. You have a team in Denver. Denver's going to be better because Jamal Murray's going to be back. Yeah. And we saw how dangerous Denver was when Jamal Murray was healthy. Minnesota's going to be improving. They were a 7 seed this year. They're going to get better. Clippers made the playoffs this year without Kawhi. If Kawhi comes back, they're going to be better. And then San Antonio still has Popovich. They made the playoffs last year with really nobody outside of DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at the team that I think nobody's talking about. Well, two teams that nobody's talking about. I'm going to start with Houston because of what Houston did in the draft this year and just a lot of those young pieces that they have. Houston's going to be improved enough where I think they can contend for a play-in spot. And then you have to look at New Orleans.
Yep.
New Orleans made that trade for C.J. McCollum, and once they made that trade, they turned themselves into a playoff team that almost beat Phoenix in the first round. They did that without Zion on their team. You add Zion back into the mix, and you pair him with Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum, that is one of the better big threes in the Western Conference where they're going to make a rise up the Western Conference standings. So based on what the rosters look on paper, you could argue that the Lakers are probably 7th or 8th in terms of where their roster is right now, which puts them on that play-in line to begin with. And if they don't make any moves and all these other teams make moves, they're going to fall further down that Western Conference roster spot.
And then if injuries hit them.
Yeah, because can you trust Anthony Davis to stay healthy?
As I was going to say, Davis isn't going to stay healthy. No, the Pelicans are real interesting to me because Brandon Ingram really took a step forward last season, especially that second half of the season after they got McCollum. And in the playoffs against Phoenix, he was playing good. He was, to me, stepped up his game. And if you add Zion back that team, I think they're going to be real dangerous.
And I don't know if you remember this, but when the playoffs were going on last season, the New Orleans GM said if New Orleans could force a Game 7, that Zion was going to play that Game 7.
Yeah.
I wanted that to happen so bad to see what would have happened if New Orleans would have eliminated Phoenix. Because if they go into Game 7, they beat Phoenix, you know damn well Zion's playing the entire second round.
Yeah.
That would have made New Orleans maybe a team that could have even gotten out of the second round.
Let's see. What's your thoughts on Knicks trying to get Brunson?
They can have him. You're going to pay that guy $90 million. You're overpaying him.
Yeah, if a team is going to give him $90 million, you're giving it to him too soon. Just because he had.
I don't think you're giving it to him. I don't think you're giving it to him too soon because that's what the market is going to demand for his position. But he's not worth it. The only team that he makes sense with is Dallas because he fits in very well with Spencer Dinwiddie and Luka Doncic as kind of those alternating guard pieces. You send him to a team in New York, you're going to be counting on him to be your leading scorer. You're going to be counting on him to be your leading guard, which he's not that type of player. He needs to be a secondary or third option on a team, not a number one option.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just saw where they said that Draymond Green said the Lakers won't beat us if they acquire Kyrie Irving. Draymond's he's always talking shit to somebody.
But he's right though.
Yeah, he's right. So I think the Warriors are going to be better next year than they were this year.
They are, because Klay Thompson will be healthier, you think.
Yep.
They might get James Wiseman back. If James Wiseman's back, that's a significant piece they didn't have this year. Jordan Poole's only going to get better. Andrew Wiggins, I believe, is a free agent, so you know Golden State's going to try to bring him back, especially what he did in the playoffs.
Actually, I think Wiggins has one more year.
Okay, well then you got him locked up, so their entire team is locked up.
I think their only free agents was Gary Payton, Iguodala, I think Looney.
Iguodala, I think, is going to retire, so I don't think you got to really worry about him. I think Gary Payton will be signed back because he's a good defender.
I think Otto Porter Jr. was the other one.
Otto Porter they can let walk. But I think they'll bring back Gary Payton on a 2 or 3 year deal because of his defense. Yep. I think they'll bring back Kevon Looney just because he's a good player off the bench. And when he did start this year, he showed that he's a capable starter. Especially if you get James Wiseman back, then you can just do a Kevon Looney, James Wiseman rotation, which is a very good rotation. Now you see those. Now you also see those other. You also see those other images now showing LeBron James in a Golden State jersey, and I'm just thinking in my head, if LeBron James goes to Golden State, why even try?
Yeah. Oh man, the media would kill him if he went to Golden State.
Yeah, they would kill him, and everyone that was killing Kevin Durant for doing it, they're going to crucify LeBron even more for doing it.
Yep. But the Warriors aren't going to lose no significant pieces, and I think they're getting a couple significant pieces back, especially you get Klay playing better, and then Wiseman. I think because Wiseman, when he was in there before he got injured, he's shown some potential.
Yeah, he was averaging like 13 and 8 when he was in there, which isn't great, but you got to remember he's only in his second year, so sometimes it takes players 2 or 3 years to kind of figure out who they want to be.
And Kuminga and Moody had some good moments in the playoffs this year as well as young guys.
Yep. And the other piece that nobody's realizing is Golden State lost Mike Brown to Sacramento, but Kenny Atkinson decided to stay with Golden State instead of leaving to Charlotte. So now Kenny Atkinson's going to be taking over that top assistant role. That's a very good basketball mind to be paired with Steve Kerr, because Atkinson led the Nets to the playoffs. Yep. And basically rebuilt that roster in 2 years and took him from a bottom feeder in the East to I think a number 5 or a number 6 seed in his second year as head coach.
And then the Nets get rid of him. And what did you think about that, about Charlotte rehiring their coach back after all that? I mean, I was kind of surprised that coach took the job back, but I figure he don't have a job anywhere else, so I figure keep your job. But
they hired their coach back?
I thought that's what I saw yesterday.
Hold on once. So they did bring back James Borrego. Well, if I'm James Borrego, I wouldn't have even. Oh no! Steve Clifford came back. James Borrego was the coach that they just had. They just brought back. Okay. Steve Clifford.
Okay.
Which, I mean, he was with them from 2013 through 2018, and he got them into the playoffs before. So I mean, he's got the familiarity with Michael Jordan in that organization, and they know he's a playoff caliber coach. And if you look at his record with the Hornets in 2013 through 2018, he was 196 and 214. So I mean, he was under 500, but he wasn't that much under 500. And you got to take into account 2 of those years with Charlotte, they were terrible.
I was gonna say they have a better team now.
So yeah, you take away those 2 terrible years in Charlotte, he was an above 500 coach who made the playoffs 2 times in 3 years, basically with the Hornets. So he's gotten them there, and that was with a terrible, terrible roster. So I guess I can see the move because they have that familiarity with them, but I think they put all their chips in the middle to get Kenny Atkinson there, and then when Atkinson said he was going to go back to Golden State, I think they were kind of left scrambling for a plan B, and I guess that was their plan B, was to bring a guy back who has the familiarity with the organization and probably was just on the outside looking for a job at this moment anyways.
Do you think that was a better option than D'Antoni?
From an organizational side of things, yes, just because Clifford has that familiarity within the organization. But in terms of playoff success, no, just because, granted, D'Antoni has never won an NBA title or anything like that, but D'Antoni's gotten several teams into the conference finals, so he knows how to at least make a deep playoff run with a team. And this would have the only thing that I would be concerned about with D'Antoni is this would be the youngest roster that he's ever had to work with. Because you look at his teams back when he was in Phoenix, you had Steve Nash and Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire. All of them were like in their upper 20s to upper 30s. Yeah. Goes to Houston, and he has a very veteran roster there with James Harden, who was under 30, but he still had a very veteran roster in Houston. The first time when he went to LA, you had Chris Paul, who was still under 30, but a lot of that roster was over 30. So he's shown that he can have success with a veteran-oriented and older roster, but the question would be, can D'Antoni have success with a younger roster?
Yeah. I thought Charlotte might go with him just because of that, because he's consistently took teams to the playoffs and had playoff runs. Like you say, he hasn't been able to get to the finals, but he's had success. So I thought that's who Charlotte was going to go with, especially after I saw he was meeting with Jordan again.
Yeah.
Oh, look who we got. What's going on, Rob?
What's up, y'all? How y'all feeling?
Feeling it.
Over here taking some beers.
Let's talk about the Hornets.
Okay.
About them going back with Clifford. And if that was a better option than getting D'Antoni.
I think so, but I'll let y'all finish our conversation before I jump in.
I think the best option is not talked about because nobody's going to offer the best option, a coaching job again.
Mark Jackson?
Yep.
What did he do to get blackballed?
You put Mark Jackson with LaMelo Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Jackson would turn LaMelo Ball into the next Curry, just not at that same level. Because obviously LaMelo Ball cannot shoot as well as Curry, but he would turn Ball into the next Curry, where he's basically one of those dynamic players that a defense has to contend with every single time he touches the ball. He did that when Mark Jackson was in Golden State. Remember, he had Monte Ellis playing at an all-star caliber level, and Monte Ellis is not an all-star caliber player.
What did he do to get blackballed? I can't remember.
Basically talking about religion and his beliefs in religion inside the locker room.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, players do not like to talk about two things that players do not like to talk about in the locker room is politics and religion.
Well, that's general rule of thumb in any workplace.
It is, but Mark Jackson was trying to push his religion on players, and that's kind of what rubbed him the wrong way, versus he could have said like what his belief is and then kind of left it at that, and I think he would still have a job. It's the fact that he tried to push it on players as much as he pushed it, where it just kind of got to the point where I think they just didn't care and weren't listening to him anymore.
Oh.
Plus, to me, I feel like a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, Mark Jackson, he tried to push the veterans more than I think, build the team around Steph. I don't think Steph was his primary focus, to me. And Steve Kerr came in and saw what he had in a Steph Curry and realized that's my star, and that's who I need to build around. Because to me, I think Mark Jackson was tending to the Monte Ellises of the world. He was tending more to his veterans, which is understandable. It's an old school way of thinking. But Steve Kerr saw what Steph Curry was and was like, that's who we need to build this team and this culture around.
And see, that's where I think some people don't give Steve Kerr his respect because they'll say, oh, he won with Mark Jackson's team. No, he took Steve Kerr, and I like Mark Jackson. I've been an advocate of him getting another coaching job. Yeah. Steve Kerr took that team to another level.
He did. See, he took it in a completely different direction than what Mark Jackson was doing. A completely different direction. They had two different coaching styles, and as I mentioned, Mark Jackson was tending more to his veterans more than he was to his new age players, especially too around this time, Steph Curry was dealing with the ankle injuries. You know, a lot of people projected his career to not go anywhere. But Steve Kerr saw enough in Steph Curry and the performances that he had put on so far that he knew that that's my star. And if I can get this man healthy, we can get his ankles under control. You know what I mean? It's new heights that we can take this team to. A boy, was Steve Kerr right.
Damien said, looking like he just got off from working at Blockbuster with that hat.
Oh, you mean Rob?
You meant Rob. He said
You
Rob.
mean Rob? Hey, Damien, I want you to look at it because this team gonna be a staple in the NBA for the next couple of years. I want you to know, we back, baby. We back. They hate it. They hate it. Oh, let me tell you this too, Chris. So I got crucified, right? Because I said if Kevin Durant joined the Bulls, I would want the Bulls to make it to the finals and then lose to the Golden State Warriors because I didn't want to see Kevin Durant win against Steph. And people got mad because they were like, "Oh, I thought Chicago." I'm like, Chicago is my team by default because I'm from the city of Chicago, but I don't really have favorite teams. I got favorite players. And why did I get on Fast Break, the other show here on ASAP? And people who are like directly connoisseurs of basketball echo the same thing that I echo. Like I don't really like teams because if you like teams, I mean, I'm a star player type of guy.
See, that's the thing I don't like about a lot of fans, and it's not a disrespect to you, but it's like players come and go. Teams do not come and go for the most part. Yes, teams do come and go, but for the most part, when a team is in a place, they're gonna stay there. So why follow players like team to team when you have a team that you can root for that's always going to be there?
Tell that to Boston fans who when the Boston ran the 80s and the earlier part of the 90s. And then where did you see Boston go? So we can't always say that teams stay. Of course the team is going to stay there because it's the team that's in the NBA. But once you lose certain players, it's all ask every team that LeBron left. Once LeBron left, they were boo-boo.
Yeah, they were boo-boo, but they never turned their back on their team. They never went to follow like Cleveland fans didn't start rooting for Miami because LeBron went to Miami.
Right, that's Cleveland fans, but LeBron fans did.
And
it's kind of hard to ask. This is a game where you can stand out with individual performances. So it's going to be kind of hard for somebody not to like an individual player. This is not like baseball where it's kind of like it's a team concept. Like you got your few players that stand out, but for the most part, everything in baseball has to go right for this.
Yeah, but look at football.
It's not like that in basketball. Like I can go out and personally score 50 points and have an impact on whether or not my team wins or lose this game.
Yeah, but look at football though too. Patriot fans didn't go to follow Tampa Bay because Brady left.
But Tom Brady fans did.
Not really. Because if you're a Tom Brady fan, you're a fan of the Patriots. Plain and simple.
No, not necessarily.
Because
you can go take a poll on that right now. You can take a poll on that right now. How many Patriot fans? I actually saw somebody on Facebook make a Patriots in a Tampa Bay jersey. They didn't really too much care about the team. They cared about the player.
I don't know. I don't.
It's the player. It's something.
I think some of it's changed too nowadays because, like when I was growing up, you didn't see players going from team to team.
Yeah.
So where now you see players going from team to team,
and that's true too.
So the landscape has kind of changed because like I'm a diehard Indiana Pacer fan, but when I was growing up, Reggie Miller was my favorite player. Well, he always played for the Pacers. You know what I mean?
So you never had to be in that situation where you had to pick and choose. Do I like this team that Reggie is playing on now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the truth too. And I think a lot of that back in the day, they used to get disguised because somebody might like the Bulls just because of Michael Jordan. Well, the fact that Michael Jordan didn't go nowhere until his career was pretty much over with, it was easy to say I'm a Bulls fan as opposed to I'm a Michael Jordan fan. As now, you can say I'm a Kevin Durant fan, but then KD goes to the Warriors. Are you still a Durant fan or are you a Thunder fan? and then KD leaves the Warriors and go to Brooklyn. Are you a Durant fan or were you a Warriors fan? So it's kind of hard to determine that, especially because I don't think teams make you watch these sports. Players do. I fell in love with basketball watching Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant. It wasn't the 76ers or the Lakers that made me like basketball. Yeah. It was those players in particular. So it's kind of hard for me to say, well, I don't root for any. I'm not necessarily rooting for the Lakers. I'm rooting for Kobe Bryant. And the Lakers just happen to be the team that he's on. So if I'm rooting for Kobe Bryant, I'm rooting for the Lakers by default.
But what you just said though is, I am a Kevin Durant fan, and I was always a Kevin Durant fan when he was in college and everything. So when he went to Oklahoma City, or when he went to Seattle, and then Seattle went to Oklahoma City was my second favorite team because of Kevin Durant. But when he left, Oklahoma City is still my second favorite team. I didn't go to Golden State as my second favorite team, and now I'm not with Brooklyn as my second favorite team. Oklahoma City is still my second favorite team because that's where Kevin Durant went. Going back to the NFL, I've always been a Viking fan, and when Randy Moss went to Minnesota, obviously Randy Moss was my favorite player, but when he left, I didn't follow him. I stayed with Minnesota. Oakland was not my second favorite team at the time. New England wasn't my second favorite team at the time when Moss played there. Yes, I followed Moss because he was my favorite player, but those wherever they went, I never changed teams. I stick with the team that I've always liked, no matter where those players go.
Yes,
you can still
like the team.
Still like a player and follow that player wherever they go, but you don't have to like the team they're on. Just because Curry's your favorite player, if he were to go from Golden State to the Lakers, you don't have to like the Lakers, but you would like the Lakers because Curry's there. You can follow Curry wherever he goes and root for Curry, but you don't have to like the team he's on. You can just root for him to be successful. You don't have to root for the team they go to.
I got you, but guess what? Let Steph Curry leave Golden State today and go to the Lakers. Guess who's the Lakers fan? I'm following my boy. Where he go, I go. We out. Steph be like, all right, y'all, we here.
No, I see what you're saying, Dustin, because I was a big Kevin Garnett fan. I loved watching Kevin Garnett play, but I was never a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, or I was always an Indiana Pacers fan because that's my team. But I loved watching KG play.
Yeah,
same thing with Grant Hill. Grant Hill was one of the players I loved watching back in the day.
He was a dog too.
Man, if we could have seen him healthy in the NBA.
Yeah, if he wouldn't have never got injured, I think Grant would have had a ring. Without a shot of a doubt. Grant was special.
Grant Hill would never have gotten a ring because he would have had to go through Michael Jordan every single year to get that.
No, because he still I think had he not had his injuries, he would have been able to stick around. But Mike left.
I know, but he was with Detroit though. By the time Michael left, Detroit wasn't what they were in the 90s. So even if he would have been healthy, they still didn't have the supporting cast around him that would have helped him. His best chance would have been during those Michael Jordan eras, but nobody was beating
What
Michael
about what about when didn't he get traded to
He went to Phoenix at the end of his career.
Nah, not to Phoenix. Didn't he have a stint where he was supposed to play with T-Mac?
With who?
With T-Mac.
In Toronto or Orlando?
Orlando.
I believe so.
I think it was rumors where they were supposed to be trying to build something.
I believe so, but even then,
hey, I'm telling you right now, if I'm talking about 97, well, not 97, 98, 99, maybe before Shaq and Kobe found their groove together. I think Grant could have snuck because who won 99? San Antonio. That was
Grant Hill got into
David Robinson's first ring.
I mean, Grant Hill was with Orlando for 8 years. He was with Phoenix for 6 years. He was with Detroit for 7 years. Obviously, with Detroit, he had to go through Michael Jordan. Well, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, that.
Then you get to Orlando in 2000. Guess who you're going through then? You're going through LeBron James. So what?
No, that's the 2003. You going through LeBron James.
Yeah, but he was with Orlando 2000 through 2007. So he still had 5 years of going through LeBron James in the Eastern Conference.
Well, in 2000,
nobody at that time was scared of LeBron.
2000, you had Shaq and Kobe.
2000,
right? That would have been the problem.
Yeah,
nobody was scared of LeBron.
No matter where, and then he goes to Phoenix.
They beat my Pacers in the finals in 2000.
And then he goes to Phoenix in 2007. Who was Phoenix going through? The Lakers again. So no matter where he went, he always had people better than him to get through that he wouldn't have gotten through.
But I don't really count his Phoenix years. I'm happy for his Phoenix years because that was like his redemption story of him coming back from all them injuries. But I'm talking about prime Grant Hill. Like if we would have saw prime Grant Hill with Tracy McGrady, those would have been scary hours. And then, I just know because I know I know what T Mac was without help.
But the problem is when did prime Tracy McGrady get there?
That was towards his injury.
Yeah, but like what year it was? Like 2004 is when prime Tracy McGrady. Guess who was running the Eastern Conference at that time? Grant Hill's old team, the Detroit Pistons, with Larry Brown in that defense.
Yeah, but I think had you have Grant Hill, T Mac could have grew up a little quicker.
He could have, but nobody was going to beat Detroit's defense those years. That's why they got to the finals as often as they did back in the mid-2000s because they were averaging 85 points a game given up. Their offense was only scoring like 94, 95 points per game, but the thing was, you had Tayshaun Prince, you had Ben Wallace, you had Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, and all these guys that actually played amazing defense.
I lost some money messing around with that squad.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, you could have paired Tracy McGrady with Grant Hill, but Tayshaun Prince would have taken Grant Hill out because of his length.
Pacers also chance a championship fight with that Pistons squad.
Yeah. Like Tayshaun Prince would have taken Grant Hill out of the game because of Tayshaun's length. And then you would have had Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups switching off with Tracy McGrady. Both are more physical than McGrady. So even with those two paired together, they still wouldn't have gotten through the Pistons because of the physicality that the Pistons had. Because outside of those two in Orlando, who would have Orlando had that could have went up with those four that the Pistons had?
Nah, not four.
Really? Billups, Prince, and Hamilton were going to
I said not them four. That's too much.
But I'm just saying, like, it would have been Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady versus those big four in Detroit.
I know. That would have been a lot.
So
I'm trying to think of who was on the Magic at that time.
You had Hedo Turkoglu.
But Hedo wasn't Hedo yet.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you paired McGrady and Grant Hill together, he was always in a situation where there was a better team standing in his way that would have prevented him from getting a ring.
Yeah.
No matter what stop he made, there was always that one team that he was going to have to get through every single year that was running the Eastern Conference or running the Western Conference at the time he was there.
Yeah, Detroit team.
That Detroit team
was tough. I remember because I was going for the Lakers in 03 and because I was not only besides the fact that Kobe Bryant was on that team, I wanted Karl Malone and Gary Payton to sneak that one in. And I'm like, dang, it's just not meant for him. You know, Gary Payton would eventually sneak in with the 06 Heat, but I'm like, it's not meant for him because everybody, if you ask anybody that year watching the Lakers versus the Pistons, everybody thought the Lakers had a powerhouse. I'm talking about Gary Payton, Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, Shaquille O'Neal. Man, everybody thought that was going to be a blowout.
Yeah, we're also forgetting that Rasheed Wallace was on that Pistons team.
Oh, yeah, Rasheed was a dog.
So that was your starting.
To be honest, a lot of people, Ben was the silent assassin, but Rasheed was the dog.
So that was your starting five: Billups, Hamilton, Prince, Wallace, and Wallace.
And Wallace, the Wallace brothers.
And then on the bench, you had guys like Chucky Atkins, who was great off the bench. Yeah, you had Hubert Davis, great off the bench, who's now a very good NCAA head coach. You had Darvin Ham coming off the bench, who's now the Lakers head coach. Lindsey Hunter was on that team.
Lindsey was a dog.
You had Darko Milicic's rookie year when he actually played well.
Trash.
You had Mohamed Okur, 6'11" center who ended up having a great career after that. You had Bob Sura, a very valuable point guard off the bench, and you had Carlos Williamson. Like, they had so much length on that team that they gave so many people issues.
Yeah, Lindsey Hunter I remember him always giving us problems here in Chicago.
I hated that Pistons team because
I hated it. Me too.
Always beating up on my Pacers.
And y'all had a real good team, Chris.
Yeah.
Before they broke everybody up, which y'all had Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest, Steven Jackson. I had a squad over there.
Still had Reggie too.
Yeah, and Reggie, even though Reggie was dwindling down,
yeah, Mark Jackson too, didn't you?
He still could hit them shots.
Yeah, Mark Jackson. They had a good team, and then you get that brawl because I thought Pacers had a great chance of winning it that year, and then that brawl
got in the Pacers' head.
Man, we should do an ASAP show on the brawl. just where you were, what were you thinking during this time? I remember just laughing because I remember going to school and telling my friends like, Ron Artest can scream how tough he is. Nobody wanted no smoke with Ben Wallace.
Oh yeah.
Nobody wanted smoke
Nobody
with that
want no
Pistons
smoke
team.
with Ben Wallace. Nah, I just remember in particular, they was beating up on the fans. Ben came up, and I remember Ron Artest just jumping back, like, whoa, hey, whoa, what's wrong, man?
Ben Wallace was the
A freak
smallest
of
yet
nature.
biggest center in the NBA, if that
That
makes
was
sense.
a freak of nature, bro. A lot of people say Ben Wallace. I've heard stories of like his bench pressing feats.
Yeah.
They say Ben Wallace was strong as hell.
But I'm saying, like, he was only 6'9", so he was like the
Yeah.
smallest center. But when it came to just like physicality and just the way he played bigger than any 7-footer in the NBA.
Yeah, man. Ben Wallace looked like that uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like when you get in trouble, you know that one family member, your mom, like, okay, I'm gonna tell your uncle. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want Uncle Ben to come getting your ass, you know?
Yeah, I remember where I was at with that brawl happen. I just left my dad's house, got back home, turned the game back on. Because I left, and as soon as it happened, I picked up the phone to call my dad to see if he was watching it. The phone was already ringing. Him calling me. Man, I'll never forget that. It was crazy.
Oh man, I remember that brawl like it was yesterday, bro.
Oh yeah, it was. It changed because then after that, Pacers broke up the team. So it changed everything. And I think it cost Reggie a last chance at making a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
But let's move to the NFL for a minute. Debo Samuel, do you think that he'll end up getting traded?
No.
I don't think they're going to trade him early either. But I heard today that he's still demanding a trade.
Yeah,
Let him
people in
demand
water
it.
still demanding water. I mean, people in hell still demanding water. Wonder how that's going for them.
I'm not trading him.
I'm not, especially with what's going on right now with the free agency market. I get what Debo is coming from. He wants to get paid. He see the landscape of receivers and what they're getting paid. But honestly, right now, it's not in the interest of San Francisco to trade him. If I can keep you, I'm gonna keep you because right now there's the market for receivers are slim right now. I mean, besides what Julio Jones and a couple of other veteran receivers, is not really a market out there for them.
And look, the Packers are going to open up with Lazard. Alan Lazard is probably their number one receiver
right.
on the roster.
You want to talk about pressure?
Well, what Debo has to realize too is he's still on the final year of his rookie deal, so San Francisco doesn't have to extend him yet. And he also has to realize that this is Jimmy Garoppolo's last year under contract. Don't you think that 49ers are waiting until that contract expires before they extend Debo? It's not like they don't want to extend him. They just don't want two gigantic contracts like that on the books, especially when George Kittle's going to be next in line.
Yep.
They would rather wait till Garoppolo's contract expires, then give Debo his money, and then give Kittle his money.
Yeah, the way I get it. I mean, if I'm Debo, I'm getting out of there next year. Just because I don't see right now San Fran don't even know what Trevor Lance can give to them. So now you saying this is Garoppolo's last year. You don't even know what the next quarterback can give to you.
Well, there's another option that San Francisco has.
What's that?
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, first cousins.
Kirk Cousins has already said he wants to go back and play with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, but are you really going to stay there for Kirk though?
What?
Are you really going to stay behind for Kirk?
Kirk Cousins.
I'm not saying Kurt is not. I like Kurt. I actually think right now Minnesota.
I think he gets a raw deal.
A good chance.
Yeah, Cousins is in the final year of his deal right now with Minnesota.
Yeah, I think Minnesota actually wins the North under Kirk Cousins this year. So, I like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Honestly.
he's in the final year of his deal right now. Jimmy Garoppolo's in the final year of his deal.
Yeah, but if I'm Debo, I'm gonna need more than Kirk.
They have enough. They've gotten to the Super Bowl with far less of a quarterback.
Yeah.
They came close. They came close to making the Super Bowl last year with far less of a quarterback.
Yeah.
As long as they have that defense intact,
We'll see after this year.
as
That's
long as
how I'm
that
looking at it. I'm
yeah, but as long as
determining where
that
I'm going
defense
this
continues
year.
to play the way their defense plays, they don't need an All-Pro quarterback to get them to the Super Bowl.
They
They just
went
need
back
a
and
game
grabbed
manager
Kaepernick.
that can do stuff.
They should have went and grabbed Kaepernick. That's what I think. Me personally. Just from a morale standpoint of what Kaepernick did when he was there, you never know. The magic could have struck again twice.
So you're saying they should have signed Kaepernick to be the starter?
Oh yeah, and not to be the starter. I would have kept Jimmy G as the starter, but like to have Kaepernick there as the backup if things don't work out with Jimmy G, I think you would have had a little bit more excitement from the team just with the nostalgia act of, man, can we capture that magic in a bottle twice? Because when Kaepernick was there, man, I like Jimmy G. Don't get me wrong. I felt like he managed the game well, but Kaepernick used to make things happen for that San Francisco.
It was a completely different system, though.
Yeah.
It was a Jim.
But they're also two
Harbaugh
completely
system.
different players. Hence it being a completely different system. I'm not going to run the same system for a Kaepernick that I run.
No,
for
Kaepernick wouldn't fit in the Kyle Shanahan system, though. Because
I
if you look at all the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has ever had, they've all been pocket passers. Every single stop.
He's not a great pocket passer. He made it work.
But I'm saying when he was the offensive coordinator in Washington, Cousins was his quarterback. Then he went to be the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. Matt Ryan was his quarterback. Then he goes to San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo is his quarterback.
But Garoppolo is not a great passer of the ball.
But I'm just saying he's a pocket quarterback, though. Like, Kyle Shanahan's systems are reliant on a pocket quarterback type of person. He does not have an offensive scheme that would fit Colin Kaepernick. That's why it worked with Jim Harbaugh, because Jim Harbaugh brought a college offensive scheme with him, one that actually fit Colin Kaepernick's strength.
Sorry to hurt your feelings, Damien.
Wait, can you put that comment back up there?
The Green Bay Packers are not doing nothing this season.
Vikings going to win at least 3 or 4 games.
Damien, can I crucify Damien for a minute here?
You tripping, bro.
Can I please crucify Damien for a minute here?
Yeah, go for it.
He tripping with some of the statements he said.
All right. Minnesota Vikings had the lead 15 of their 17 games last year. Only team in the NFL that led more than 11 times. Minnesota had the lead 12 times in the fourth quarter last year. 10 of those leads were in the final 5 minutes, which they went 3-7 in those 10 games. It wasn't because of Kirk Cousins. It wasn't because of their offense. It was because Mike Zimmer forgot how to coach the defense in the final 5 minutes of the game. If Minnesota wins 2 of those games, they are a playoff team that nobody wants to see. Now you are adding an offensive-minded head coach in Kevin O'Connell to a team that already had a quarterback playing at an MVP level the first 10 weeks of the season, to an offense that has a top 3 running back in Dalvin Cook, to an offense that has a top 3 receiver in Justin Jefferson and a very good number 2 in Adam Thielen, to a defense that's going to be better this year because they are bringing in a veteran defensive coordinator from the Denver Broncos that actually knows what he is doing. Out of all the teams in the NFC North, and this includes the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions, the Minnesota Vikings have the best roster top to bottom. Yes, the Packers have the best player in Aaron Rodgers, but they also lost Devontae Adams and a lot from that roster. The Bears still have a young roster that needs to figure out how they're going to work with a new head coach. Minnesota practically still has their same exact roster intact with just a younger, more fluid, offensive-minded head coach.
Yeah, I think Minnesota's going to be good this year. I'm a Kirk Cousins fan. I think he gets a bad rap from the media and everybody. He don't get the people don't talk about him that he's as good as he really is. They want to
because every team he's been on, the defense has let him down. And when you see his record as a quarterback, I think he's 68-67 as a starter with 2 ties. 500 records aren't going to make you into the playoffs. Well, last season Minnesota's offense averaged almost 30 points a game, and yet they were 8-9. Well, if you're scoring 30 points a game and you're only winning 8 games, offense is not your issue.
No.
Defense is the problem.
Yeah.
The guy had 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions last year. Obviously, Cousins is not the problem.
No, I don't think Cousins is the problem. I thought Washington was stupid for not sticking with them, but Washington has their own problems over there, so it don't surprise me that they messed that up. But I don't know. I could see him going to San Francisco. Though. I do agree with that because of Shanahan.
Yep.
What was the 49ers going to do with Lance? You moved up to take him, and then
I don't know, man. I don't know which pick was worse, theirs or Green Bay with Jordan Love. It was like, what was the point of moving up to grab these?
I mean, Rob, you can add the Chicago Bears in that mix too with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing picking Mitch, but you know what? Mitch actually played.
Mitch did play because they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice. Hey, regardless though, you moved up to grab a quarterback and you grabbed a quarterback that played. Like these franchises literally grab quarterbacks to have them sit there. That makes no sense to me. Like, and we thought Jimmy G was gone and that Trevor Lance would eventually get to play. That hasn't been the case. And then with Jordan Love, I mean, I understand you didn't know where Aaron Rodgers' head was at, but that was like unfair as hell of Green Bay to just snatch him up. And
well, the problem is with Trey Lance right now. If Kyle Shanahan doesn't change his offensive scheme, Lance is going to be trade bait next year. Because
so
Lance
he fits under the same kind of scope that Colin Kaepernick would.
Pretty much, because Lance does not fit in the Kyle Shanahan system. Kyle Shanahan's system only works when you have a pocket passing type of quarterback. It does not work when you have that dual threat quarterback. So unless Shanahan gets Lance more involved this year, where he's more of a pocket passer this year, or unless unless Shanahan is willing to redo his entire offensive scheme next year to suit Lance will be out the door before Garoppolo will, just because Lance does not fit that system.
All right, let me ask you this. With the scope of today's game, do you think coaches and offensive coordinators like a Kyle Shanahan will still be able to exist in the NFL years from now? Because quarterbacks are moving away from that pocket throwing type of game.
Yes, I do, and I will answer your question in a second. I just got to take a phone call quick.
Okay. But you see what I'm saying, Chris?
Yeah, because the game is changing.
The game is completely changed. Like you even look at
with Shanahan's system. What about it? Why can't you? To me, doing that running scheme he has, if you have a running quarterback, to me that could make it even more dangerous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So to me, you could make tweaks to that system to make it even more dangerous. Kind of like what Baltimore has done with Lamar. You don't have to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to that extent with Lance. Depending on his passing ability, but with that system with Shanahan, Shanahan's always. It seems like whoever you put in that system, the running back eats. Mm-hmm. So if you had another threat as a runner, to me, it'd make it even more dangerous.
Yeah, I think most of these coaches need to get with the times. That typical quarterback, that pocket passer, those days are kind of becoming old, because nowadays, with the defense becoming much more athletic, the offense is starting to adapt too, which means you need more of an athletic quarterback.
Yeah.
And to me, that's been the route you even look at somebody like Archie Manning. He's athletic. He can pass from the pocket, but he also knows how to use his legs. Even Aaron Rodgers, from the point of people say he's one of the greatest talents they've ever seen because of the fact that he's able to move his legs and get out of trouble, and not only throw from the pocket, but away from the pocket as well. So to me personally, I think with the way that the NFL is going, people like Kyle Shanahan is going to have to up their game and evolve their game as a coach and as a play caller, because now you're going to have offenses suited to these more athletic quarterbacks. And that's regardless of skin color, because hey, shit, these white boys fast as hell too. They getting out that pocket and they are gone. And they will kill you with that pump fake and bring it back and take off running. I've seen it. I mean, the game of football with the athleticism now on both ends of the ball, it is such a difficult game. I mean, it's more than just a physical thing now. Now it's turning into physicality and finesse. But yeah, Dustin, I'm glad you back. Our esteemed stat guy. Please answer that question.
I think more coaches are going to go back to, honestly, Kyle Shanahan style as opposed to going away from it, because if you look at a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, they're going back to more of that pocket passing orientation. You have guys like Josh Allen, who's still a dual threat, but Joe Burrow's a pocket passer. Justin Herbert's a pocket passer who only uses his legs when he has to. Aaron Rodgers is a pocket passer. Patrick Mahomes is a pocket passer who uses his legs when he has to. Derek Carr is a pocket passer. Tom Brady's a pocket passer. Matthew Stafford's a pocket passer. Dak Prescott's a pocket passer who only uses his legs when he has to.
But out of all those quarterbacks you just named, not everybody has had success.
Not everybody has had success in wins and losses, but they've had success in statistics. And wins and losses don't always fall on the player. It has to fall on the supporting cast around you.
Yeah.
But if you have a quarterback that's putting up good numbers in a certain system, you're not going to completely transform that system to go with a different style of quarterback. And if you look at all the teams that made the playoffs last year, so out of the 14 teams that made the playoffs, only 2 teams had a running style quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts of Philadelphia was obviously one, and then Josh Allen in Buffalo. Otherwise, every other quarterback in the playoffs last year was a pocket passing quarterback that they know how to run, but they only use their legs when they absolutely have to.
And they are favored at this year too, by the way.
With the way running
Buffalo.
backs always seem to eat when in Shanahan's system, wouldn't having a mobile quarterback, couldn't that make that system even more dangerous?
Not really, because the Shanahan systems have always had 3 running backs. They've always had like your bell cow back, which the Niners last year were obviously using Deebo Samuel as their bell cow because Mostert got hurt early in the year. But otherwise, outside of Deebo Samuel, you had Elijah Mitchell, who broke onto the scene as a rookie last year and now is probably going to be their number 1 running back this year. Plus, you had 1 or 2 backs behind him. Back when he was in Atlanta, he had can't remember who you had. Devin Coleman and Devontae Freeman as his running backs back then. So they had the 2 running back system there. In Washington, he had Alfred Morris and like 2 other guys behind Alfred Morris. So every system that he's been at, he's always had 3 running backs. Where you have the bell cow back, and then you have 2 other guys that you utilize in different ways.
He had such a short career, Devontae Freeman, man. I like that kid. When I was on DraftKings doing those fantasy lineups, he was a fantasy point stuffer. Devontae Freeman was a beast, and he just fell off the face of the map. I was like, where'd Devontae go?
Coleman was a good fantasy pickup there for a while as well.
Yeah. Atlanta had a couple little fantasy point stuffers, which used to baffle me at how horrible they were.
Do you think Julio is going to end up anywhere?
I think he ends up with Matt Ryan.
Yep, I said this. I was about to say he's going to end up with y'all, brother.
That's what I figured, but it's never happened. So I was like,
I think when it's gonna have to like get closer to the deadline for Julio to be like, you know what, I want to make a move. You know what I'm saying? So, I think with the chemistry that him and Matt Ryan had, he's had some of the best years of his career with Matt Ryan. He played most, if not all, of his career. Not all, but most of his career with Matt Ryan. I just think Matt Ryan is the logical choice.
Yeah, to me, it makes the most sense. And if he can stay healthy, that's going to be the big key. Is can he stay healthy throughout the season to be able to help the Colts? That's going to be the big question. Because he didn't have a very good year last year in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, Tennessee has Derrick Henry. So,
yeah. Breaking news. AP's challenging Le'Veon Bell to a fight in a boxing ring next month. Oh, man. Why do all these athletes think they gotta get in the ring and box now?
I'm sorry, but that's one man I would not want to take a punch from.
I wouldn't either. I'll say that, but I'll
He-
watch it.
AP's a big human being.
Oh yeah. But why? Yeah, why are all you get all these football players want to go box now? Gore was boxing. I guess
mean-
money.
That's what happens when you don't know how to control your money.
Yep, I still need to make that money. Let's see. One more comment before we get out of here. Packers. He says y'all can say Packers are going to suck, but Rodgers is Rodgers.
How many division titles have the Packers had in the last 6 years? 3, and they came the last 3 years. Minnesota had 2 before that, and the Bears had 1 before that. So of the last 6 division titles, the Packers really haven't owned the North. It's been the last 3 years that he's owned the North because Matt Nagy couldn't coach himself out of a paper bag. The Lions are the Lions, and Mike Zimmer decided to go with Mr. Inconsistency on defense the last 3 years. So the Packers, you could argue, have had the easiest division the last 3 years. And the thing is, nobody fears the Packers anymore in this division with Devontae Adams gone. Because we've already seen it when Aaron Rodgers has opportunities to win the game. He doesn't look to anybody else but Devontae Adams. And it cost them that playoff game against San Francisco.
Yep.
And without Devontae Adams, if you're honestly trusting Alan Lazard, who's been primarily your number 3 receiver the last 4 years, and Sammy Watkins, who hasn't played a full season in 5 years, to be your top 2 wide receivers, and then mixing in Christian Watkins, the rookie, in there also, we've already seen how tough it is for a rookie to gain Aaron Rodgers' trust. And now you have Alan Lazard and Sammy Watkins as your number 1 and number 2 receivers. That is not a very good receiving class or receiving core that Aaron Rodgers has to work with. And I understand that, yes, Rodgers is Rodgers, and Rodgers is going to be who he's going to be. But when you lose your best and most trusted offensive weapon that you've had the last 7 years, not one single player is going to make up for that. It's going to take 2 or 3 wide receivers to make up for the production that Devontae Adams gave you. Then you throw in that you also lost Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You no longer have your deep ball threat that you can throw the ball 60 yards downfield to.
Yeah, their offense is going. I think their offense is going to struggle.
Dad, can you turn the water on
Yeah,
for me?
it don't matter how
I'm not going to say their offense is going to struggle because they are still going to score points just because Rodgers will help with that. But this is not a team that's going to score 30 to 34 points a game consistently anymore. This will be a team that'll probably give you 24 points, and they're going to have to hope that defense holds up the way it did for most of the season last year.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have to lean on their defense more. Because hey, we saw it with Brady in New England. If you don't have weapons, it makes it tough.
What was that?
So we saw it with Brady in New England. If you don't have some weapons at the receiver position, it can make it tough on your offense to produce enough points. So I think they're definitely going to have to lean on that defense more this year than they did last year.
They
what
will.
team is this?
We've seen their defense step up when it needs to step up, but when all is said and done, their defense typically folds in big moments, just like he typically folds in big moments.
Are we talking about Green Bay, Rob?
Yeah, they're over with, bro.
Like they're not having no receivers.
They're over with, bro.
But before we get out of here for the day, let's get the final thoughts. You got any final thoughts, Rob?
I'm just waiting on football now. I was listening to you guys earlier, and unfortunately, Dustin is correct in his statement by saying that if you're not a fan of baseball or soccer right now, you're kind of screwed. So I'm a little bit screwed until football comes on. But we were talking about the Forbidden Door earlier, so I'm gonna go check that out. I heard it was a great show, so excited about seeing it.
Got got Wimbledon on if you're a tennis fan.
I don't know.
Hey, you got the USFL championship game next weekend.
Real football.
It's gotten better the last several weeks.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of it, but I did watch a little bit of it at the beginning. And it wasn't very good, but I did know you say it's gotten better every week.
Yeah.
But you got any final thoughts, that guy?
No, I don't. I'm just looking forward to NBA offseason this year. I think it's going to be just like the NFL offseason where free agency takes a back seat instead, and you kind of have the trades that are going to be more of the difference maker this year as opposed to free agency.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Free agency starts Thursday. Got some players. I know Irving's deadline to sign his extensions Wednesday, right?
Yes.
If I remember right. I think.
Yeah.
But all right, I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern with another episode of the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. You all have a great day.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.